It's like eating. You ain't gotta scream at me. You gonna raise your voice at me?
Oh my God.
You raise your voice to me, I raise my voice to you. You just in a row.
This is Quincy J. Tuttle. The 11-year-old Quincy is facing charges for bringing a handgun, 400 rounds of ammunition, and knives to Frontier Middle School, sparking shock and concern among students, parents, and authorities alike. The incident marked a stark contrast to Quincy's previous reputation as a well-behaved student with no criminal history. Quincy claimed that voices had told him to shoot another student who had allegedly been bullying a friend. Quincy detailed that the targeted students had insulted his friend, which he found deeply distressing.
According to these court documents, we're learning that that kid had plans to kill 2 different students on that school, and also a week before he was arrested, he brought those weapons to school, but fortunately, school leaders found them before he was able to do anything.
Quincy's mother had suspected his actions, prompting her to alert the school that her son may have taken kitchen knives with him. Consequently, school resource officers intervened and discovered the extent of his plan, which included a semi-automatic .22 caliber handgun, loaded magazines, and additional ammunition. Quincy had planned to shoot the students and subsequently take his own life. Following his arrest, Quincy was charged with first-degree attempted assault, second-degree unlawful possession of a firearm, and possession of a weapon at school. While the heinousness of Quincy's actions is undeniable, the true shock lies in their behavior during the sentencing process. Appearing in Clark County Juvenile Court, Quincy's behavior showed the true state of his mind. Although still a minor, Quincy shocked everyone in court. The evaluation by child psychiatric experts confirmed that at the time of the incident, the child understood what was right and wrong and wasn't mentally ill. Quincy was remanded in a juvenile detention facility. However, while Quincy's behavior was disturbing, it's nothing compared to the utter mayhem caused by Larry Dornell Gordon in court. On July 11, 2016, Larry Darnell Gordon initiated a series of events on the 3rd floor of the Berrien County Courthouse in St. Joseph, Michigan, resulted in the tragic loss of human lives. Gordon was charged with many crimes, including criminal sexual conduct, child abuse, and having weapons. These charges were due to his relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Gordon had locked her up for months and abused her. The girl said Gordon drugged her and assaulted her while recording his abominable actions. Besides these charges, Gordon also had charges for hurting his ex-wife. He had a terrible criminal record and was set to be imprisoned for life if he was found guilty. But don't be fooled by the severity of Gordon's crimes. Wait until you discover his outrageous actions in the courtroom. After a courthouse hearing, Gordon was taken to a holding cell by a deputy sheriff. Unfortunately, Gordon's handcuffs were in front, not in the back, and he was not tied with a belly chain. In the blink of an eye, he snatched an officer's gun. You can hear a voice saying no. But Gordon wasn't in the mood to listen. Gordon shot and injured the deputy and 2 bailiffs who responded to the commotion. He then fled into a public hallway, briefly holding hostages. As more bailiffs arrived, Gordon pointed his weapon at them while moving toward an unsecured stairway. In response, the bailiffs fired shots, fatally wounding him. During the confrontation, a civilian was inadvertently shot and wounded. Sadly, the two bailiffs he shot lost their lives, and the other people he injured went on to make a full physical recovery. However, the emotional trauma and the pain his actions caused the families of the victims will take some time to heal. However, while Gordon's behavior raised eyebrows, it's nothing compared to the explosive actions of Judge John Murphy, a former military member and United States Army colonel with an impressive record. But Judge Murphy found himself in a courtroom incident that went out of control.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just... Let's go.
The incident involved a heated confrontation between Judge John Murphy and Assistant Public Defender Andrew Weinstock. The judge aimed to clear his schedule and suggested that Weinstock waive his client's rights to a speedy trial. However, Weinstock remained steadfast in his commitment to defending his client's rights.
Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No,
sit down.
I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to stand and
sit
represent my
down.
clients.
As tensions grew, both the judge and Weinstock became more frustrated. Judge Murphy's frustration became clear as he exchanged words with Weinstock. He even mentioned his wish to physically confront Weinstock.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just... Let's go.
Despite the judge's attempts to establish authority and request that Weinstock sit down, the attorney stood firm, sticking to his duty to represent his clients. However, just when you thought they couldn't sink any lower, what they did next will leave you stunned. Unexpectedly, the situation escalated beyond words. Judge Murphy proposed a physical altercation outside the courtroom, surprising everyone present.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just... Let's go.
Shockingly, Attorney Weinstock took him and his words, and the two men stepped outside the court. Unfortunately, the courtroom's camera couldn't capture the visuals, but the sounds of their altercation were heard. The confrontation ended when a deputy intervened and separated them. Upon Judge Murphy's return to the courtroom, some defendants applauded and cheered. Despite Judge Murphy's military background, his behavior during this incident was deemed unacceptable by the Florida Supreme Court. As a result, he was suspended from his judicial duties, regardless of his past achievements.
I have a right to stand and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just... Let's go.
However, while some may attribute Judge John Murphy's actions to frustration, it pales in comparison to the unfathomable behavior of Slobodan Praljak.
Stop, please. Please sit down.
Praljak was a Bosnian Croat convicted war criminal who served in the Croatian Army and the Croatian Defense Council from 1992 to 1995. During the Croat-Bosniak War, Praljak married Kakusa Babic, the former wife of his close friend and poet Goran Babic. Although they didn't have children, Praljak shared a strong bond with his stepchildren Natasha and Nikola, with Nikola even adopting the last name of Praljak. In 1991, Praljak gained public attention when he voluntarily joined the newly formed Croatian Armed Forces during the Croatian War of Independence. Besides his military involvement, he had various other roles, including an engineer, television and theater director, and businessman. He was indicted by the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia in 2004 and voluntarily surrendered. Accusations against Praljak included failing to prevent crimes committed by the armed forces, such as removing and detaining the Muslim population, murders, destruction of buildings, and attacks on international organizations. He was also accused of ordering the destruction of Mostar's Stari Most, causing damage to the Muslim civilian population. As if Praljak's crime was not outrageous enough, his reaction to his sentence was even more dramatic. Despite his denial and resignation from the Defense Council's Chief of Staff position, Slobodan Praljak was found guilty of violating the laws of war, committing crimes against humanity, and breaching the Geneva Conventions during the Croat-Bosniak War.
It was the last verdict of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. The court, set up by the United Nations in 1993, closes next month.
On November 29, 2017, during the pronouncement of his appeal judgment, Praljak publicly rejected the verdict. But what he did next shocked everyone in the courtroom.
Stop, please. Please sit down.
Watch again as Praljak boldly downs a bottle of cyanide.
Stop, please. Please sit down.
Praljak was later transported to a hospital, where he ultimately passed away.
Stop, please. Please sit down.
However, this is not the first time a convict has done something disturbing in court, just like what happened in the notorious case of Aubrey Trail.
Please be seated.
Bailey is innocent, not curse you all.
Stop recording.
A 52-year-old man facing charges of killing and dismembering a woman he had met on the dating app Tinder. The victim of this horrifying ordeal was Sydney Loof, a store clerk who vanished in November 2017 after a Tinder date with Bailey Boswell, Trail's girlfriend at the time. Loof's dismembered remains were tragically discovered in trash bags in a rural area a month later. Throughout the trial, the prosecution alleged that Trail and Boswell had meticulously plotted the crime for weeks, using social media to lure their unsuspecting victim into their deadly trap. They argued that their intentions were evil and had devastating consequences. As the trial progressed, emotions ran high, and the tension in the courtroom reached a boiling point. Trail's defense team argued that Loof's death was accidental and occurred during a consensual sexual encounter. The prosecution provided this as evidence that Trail and Boswell were responsible for Loof's death. But the proceedings took a tragic turn when a witness had just finished testifying. Trail, apparently unable to contain his feelings any longer, suddenly erupted in a dramatic outburst.
Please be seated.
Bailey is innocent, not curse you all.
Bailiffs rushed to restrain him as he collapsed from his wheelchair, and the courtroom was left in disarray.
Please be seated.
Bailey is innocent, not curse you all.
Stop recording.
He was immediately rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, Trail's injuries were later reported as not severe, and he made a full recovery, appearing in court in less than 3 weeks. Trail's attorneys later suggested that he had harmed himself using a piece of a razor blade, but they assured the court that his injuries were not severe. The judge ordered that Trail must appear in handcuffs for the remainder of the trial. Eventually, Trail was sentenced to death.
Bailey is innocent, not curse you all.
However, Trail's discontent with their sentence brings to mind the strikingly similar response of Michael James Marin.
Do you find the defendant, Michael James Marin, guilty of arson of an occupied structure?
An American financier, lawyer, ex-Wall Street trader, and millionaire. However, his life took a dark turn when he was charged with arson and insurance fraud related to his own home. Marin was accused of setting his own house on fire and charged to court.
Okay, and what's your emergency?
My house is on fire.
Are you going to be able to get out?
I've got one of those ladders.
You have a ladder where?
I'd rather work on that than talk to you, so let me get the hell out of here.
However, despite what anyone says, he insists that he wasn't involved in his house fire and tries to explain away the magic scuba diving gear he used to escape.
I realized that I actually had some air left in that tank, and that's what enabled me to get back to the window and deploy that ladder. If I hadn't had those two things, we wouldn't be talking.
As if a lawyer committing arson and insurance fraud were not outrageous enough, his reaction to his sentence was even more dramatic. The court hearings commenced on May 21st, 2012, and Marin was potentially facing a prison sentence of 7 to 21 years if convicted. An unexpected twist occurred on June 28, 2012, when the jury delivered a guilty verdict.
Do you find the defendant, Michael James Marin, guilty of arson of an occupied structure?
What followed was a moment that shocked all present in the courtroom. After hearing the verdict and realizing that he was to be immediately taken into custody, Marin made a tragic decision. In a dramatic and chilling display, he pretends as if he is overwhelmed by the verdict, but he has a more terrifying plan. Marin closed his eyes, covered his face with his hands, and then ingested a substance. Moments later, he collapsed to the floor, convulsing. Rushed to a central hospital in Phoenix, it was confirmed that Marin had consumed a lethal dose of cyanide, leading to his untimely death.
Do find the defendant, Michael James Marin, guilty of arson of an occupied structure.
However disturbing Marin's reaction to his sentence was, it doesn't compare to the case of District Judge Richard Scotti, who was presiding over a jury selection in a molestation case in Las Vegas.
You're saying you can't be fair and impartial to both sides. You're going to completely throw out our entire justice system because you don't want to be fair and impartial.
The culprit, Jose Azucena, is facing trial for the heinous crime and, if convicted, will be sentenced to life imprisonment. Azucena faced 40 charges, including child sexual assault, lewdness, and kidnapping. Prosecutors argued that he had exploited his position as a family friend to lure and abuse 5 young girls in his Las Vegas apartment complex between 2014 and 2016.
The victim says he took her into his apartment where he tied her up and taped her mouth shut before sexually assaulting her.
Prepare for a twist that will make your jaw drop. Before the trial, Judge Scotti must ensure that the members of the jury must pledge to be fair and unbiased.
Okay, so can you be fair to both sides?
However, a female member of the jury expressed concerns about her ability to be unbiased if chosen for the jury.
I think I would be biased.
And Judge Scotti lost it.
Okay. You didn't say that yesterday.
Well, I said I had
No,
other
listen,
issues.
what we're not going to have in this jury is people coming in overnight and thinking of and try to make up now so they can get out of the jury. That's not going to happen, all right? Now, what's going on here? Tell me what's going on.
I said I had other issues yesterday, and you said you'd get back to me.
All right, so why you got issues? Why can't you're saying that you can't be fair and impartial to both sides? You're going to completely throw out our entire justice system because you don't want to be fair and impartial.
Your Honor, may we approach? Your Honor.
No, you can't approach.
And subsequently dismissed her from the jury.
You're off this jury. You're off this jury. You're removed. Go home. All right?
Eventually, Jose Azucena was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, Judge Scotti's behavior raised eyebrows, and Jose Azucena's conviction was overturned due to Judge Scotti's questionable behavior during the trial. The Nevada Supreme Court panel concluded that Judge Scotti's behavior had created an intimidating atmosphere that tainted the jury panel's integrity. The situation created doubt about whether Scotti's actions influenced the guilty verdicts handed down by the jury. Nevertheless, the court pointed out that no other jurors disclosed any bias or concerns about impartiality. The intimidating atmosphere created by Judge Scotti's behavior was deemed unacceptable. They decided that a different judge should oversee Jose Azucena's new trial.
You're going to completely throw out our entire justice system because you don't want to be fair and impartial. You're off this jury. You're off this jury.
However, when emotions run high in court, the actions of District Judge Richard Scotti and Timothy DiMatteo leave us questioning sanity itself.
Oh boy.
Timothy DiMatteo, a 34-year-old Hollywood musician, was arrested for allegedly shoplifting at a Hollandale Beach Walgreens. According to an arrest report, a Walgreens employee observed DiMatteo placing nutritional supplements down his pants and then entering the bathroom. Police reported that after DiMatteo was confronted by a Walgreens employee about the stolen supplements, he returned them. However, he left the bathroom while cursing the employee, kicking merchandise, and damaging a 12-pack of Coca-Cola. DiMatteo then left Walgreens and headed to a nearby Publix. Police caught up with him at Publix and arrested him. He was charged with petite theft and damaged property for his actions at Walgreens. However, the real shocker came when DiMatteo unleashed his madness in the courtroom. During his bond hearing before Broward Judge John Hurley, DiMatteo decided to put on a show. After all, he is a Hollywood musician. Our musician really believes he's a popular celebrity and wants confirmation from the judge.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
You know me, don't you?
No.
I was going to Walgreens to pick up my scripts. They said it was a 45-minute wait for some reason. I'm walking around shopping. I go to the bathroom to take a piss and wash my hands, and the manager's in there waiting for me, thinking I'm shoplifting. I wasn't shoplifting anything.
No?
No. My First, Second, Third, Fourth, 13th, 14th Amendment rights have been violated.
However, this wasn't DiMattio's first brush with crime. A prosecutor informed Judge Hurley that DiMattio was on probation for grand theft.
Two things worth noting. Mr. DiMattio was arrested September 14th of this year at a Mexican restaurant, where allegedly he ran up a bill for $256.26. He refused to leave or pay for his tab. Additionally, September 29th of this year, he was placed on 18 months probation for grand theft.
While the judge goes through the facts of the case, DiMattio decides to drum his way into the judge's favor.
Oh boy.
Instead, his music only attracted corrections officers. Following DiMattio's disruptive behavior, corrections officers forcibly removed him from the courtroom.
Cases, that's fine, but I don't think it's too much to ask.
The bond hearing continued without his presence. Following the disruptive incidents, DiMattio's bond was revoked, and he was remanded into custody. Eventually, his damage to property charge was dismissed, and he was ordered to pay for the petty theft.
Your Honor, sidebar.
Oh boy.
However, just when you thought you'd seen it all, another convict surpasses Timothy DiMattio's wild courtroom display. Enter Sayal Angelou, a 25-year-old member of the Tongan Crip gang.
Walls.
Was facing serious charges in Salt Lake City, Utah. He's one of 17 individuals named in a racketeering indictment. His charges include conspiracy, assault, robbery, weapons offenses, a string of attacks on local store clerks, and shooting 2 U.S. Marshals in 2007. During the trial, a brave prison inmate was testifying about the inner workings of the gang. Suddenly, Angelou got a bright idea. He noticed a pen, and the idea took shape in his head.
Walls.
Fortunately, a vigilant U.S. Marshal sprang into action before anyone could fully comprehend what was happening. Angelou was hit multiple times and sustained a chest injury. He was promptly taken to the hospital. Thankfully, aside from Angelou, no one else was harmed, as the intended target narrowly avoided the assault with the pen. Unfortunately, Angelou eventually succumbed to his injuries.
Walls.
Sayal Angelou is a prime example of a convict acting crazy in court. However, could sexual assault in court be considered even a little crazier? Like in the infamous case of Monica Contreras. In August 2011, Monica Contreras, a 28-year-old woman from Los Angeles, attended a courthouse for a divorce hearing, accompanied by her 2-year-old daughter. During the proceedings, she was subjected to a traumatic incident that led to a chain of events involving accusations, cover-ups, and legal actions. While in a witness room, Court Marshal Ron Fox, who was assigned to the courthouse, allegedly sexually assaulted Contreras. He was supposed to search her for drugs. Instead, he allegedly groped her, touched her buttocks and breast, and even ordered her to lift up her shirt. Feeling violated, Contreras approached another marshal, James Kenyon, to report the incident. However, both Kenyon and Donninger not only disregarded Contreras' complaint, but turned her back on the situation. However, what happened next was even crazier. As the situation escalated, Fox, the court marshal accused of the assault, ordered Contreras' arrest in response to her allegations.
Jimmy, I got court. I still have to do this, so
Alarmed, Contreras questioned the reason for her arrest, but Fox already had an answer ready.
Hey, cutie. I'm not making false allegations on, sir. Why would you put me in this position? I'm a good person.
As Contreras is still recovering from the shock, the cunning Fox gives her an ultimatum. To avoid arrest, she has to recant her accusations against him.
I don't want to deal with this, please. I just want to end it. Okay, it was all lies. It was all lies. It was all lies. It was all lies. Let me go home, please. Let me go. It was all lies.
Defiant, Contreras stepped up to the microphone and bravely addressed the court. She asserted that Fox had placed her in a room and instructed her to lift her shirt without a witness present. She was subsequently taken into custody, leaving her daughter in the care of Child Haven. Contreras' claims were later validated by an internal investigation conducted by the Clark County courts. As a result, she was awarded $200,000 in a court settlement. Fox was fired, and another marshal, James Kenyon, was relieved of duties. Hearing Master Patricia Donninger also left her position. However, Ron Fox denied the accusations and initiated legal action, filing a lawsuit against his dismissal, claiming that it was unfair. However, while Ron Fox's behavior raised eyebrows, it's nothing compared to the explosive actions of Michael Gaines during his trial.
The words were that you deliberately were hawking up.
Bullshit. I didn't hawk up no saliva, okay?
Look at me.
It's like ignorant. You ain't gotta scream at me. You gonna raise your voice at me?
Oh my God.
You raise your voice to me, I raise my voice to you. You just in a row.
In June 2008, Michael Gaines faced a jury trial, accused of 2 counts of battery against law enforcement officers. He was convicted on these counts, but acquitted of a criminal threat charge. The district court on July 17, 2008, sentenced him to 162 months in prison, an aggravated sentence under the Kansas Sentencing Guidelines Act, with consecutive terms for each count. Gaines appealed, and his convictions were upheld on August 6, 2010. During his trial, it emerged that Gaines had been in an altercation with fellow inmates inside a county jail's medical clinic.
Deliberately.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know
the words were that you deliberately were hawking up.
Bullshit. I didn't hawk up no saliva, okay? That's bullshit. And you're gonna believe those lies. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't hawk up no saliva. You're gonna believe a lie because they wearing uniform.
Deputies Robin Diericks and Michael Eaglin confronted him when he began arguing with another inmate.
I appreciate Mr. Gaines making my point for me.
You punk.
The state's version indicated that when asked to comply, Gaines resisted and even swung at the officers. He was subdued by Diericks knocking him down. Despite the officer's commands, Gaines continued to resist and eventually spat blood and saliva at Deputy Eaglin and another officer, Deputy Verduzco.
All the evidence shows that you deliberately were hawking up.
Bullshit. I didn't hawk up no saliva, okay?
However disturbing Gaines's crimes were, wait till you see how he handled himself in court. During the trial, Gaines maintained his innocence. He claimed Eaglin attacked him unprovoked, pushing him into a wall and punching him. He denied resisting or spitting on the deputies. Nevertheless, the jury found him guilty. After some years, Gaines is now before Judge Rebecca Hillshaw during his sentencing for the battery charges. He came prepared.
All the evidence shows that you deliberately.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know
the words were that you deliberately were hawking up.
Bullshit. I didn't hawk up no saliva, okay? That's bullshit. And you're gonna believe those lies. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't hawk up no saliva. You're gonna believe a lie because they wearing uniform.
As the proceedings escalated, Gaines became increasingly confrontational.
Look at me.
It's like ignorant. You ain't gotta scream at me. You gonna raise your voice at me?
Oh my God.
You raise your voice to me, I raise my voice to you. You just in a row.
Assistant District Attorney Kevin O'Connor's attempts to intervene only worsened the situation.
I appreciate Mr. Gaines making my point for me.
You punk.
Very well received.
Maggot mother.
And I don't think I have to take insults from.
I know. You. Use a.
The tension reached its peak when the judge ordered Gaines to be removed from the courtroom due to his uncontrollable behavior.
He's a maggot.
Ultimately, despite Gaines's actions, Judge Hillshaw decided to extend the sentence beyond the initial 10-year proposal, imposing a 13-year term in state prison.
You gonna raise your voice at me?
Oh my God.
You punk?
Very well received.
Maggot mother.
If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video of cops reacting to life sentences.